In the 1600s in England, there was a country priest named Samuel Crossman. He was part of the Anglican Church, but had some Puritan beliefs. He worked in a small village called Easter Compton, and later became the Dean of Bristol Cathedral. Crossman wrote a few poems about his faith, including one famous poem that starts with, "My song is love unknown." This poem tells the story of Jesus' arrest, trial, death, and burial, ending with a joyful feeling that this suffering touched Crossman's own life. His poem shows how Christianity is really about a person, Jesus, who Christians believe is the Christ, meaning anointed one. They believe he is both God and a real human who lived a long time ago. Christians think they can still connect with Jesus, just like his friends who walked with him in Galilee and saw him die. They believe this connection can change their lives, just like it has for many Christians over the years. This book shares their stories and the 2,000 years of Christian history. There are many stories about Christianity that go back 2,000 years. This might seem like a big challenge for historians, especially since modern scholars often focus on small details. But compared to other religions like Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Judaism, Christianity is relatively young. It has only been around for a short time in the long history of humans. The book I wrote has a subtitle that makes readers think about whether Christianity will continue in the future, and I believe it will. It also reminds us that Christian ideas come from people who lived before Jesus. My book tells stories but also asks questions, and I try not to give too many answers because that can be a problem in organized religion. Some readers might think my views are doubtful, but, as my old teacher said, if historians aren't a bit doubtful, they aren't doing their job. I believe my book looks at Christian history differently from others. The beliefs in Christianity come from two ancient cultures, the Greeks and the Jews. The story starts more than 1,000 years before Jesus, with these two groups who thought they had an important role in history. The Greeks were proud of their achievements in art, philosophy, and science. On the other hand, the Jews faced many hardships, but kept their faith strong. They believed in a God who cared deeply about how they lived, showing both love and anger. This personal God is different from the all-perfect God described by Greek philosophers, who was seen as unchanging and without emotions. The first Christians were Jews who lived in a world influenced by Greek culture. They had to figure out how to bring together these two very different ideas of God, and the answers they found have always been complicated and open to more questions. After Jesus' life and the time right after, the history of Christianity was mostly united for about 300 years. After that, it started to split into different groups that spoke different languages: Latin, Greek, and various Oriental languages, including the language Jesus spoke. So, after those first few centuries, the story of Christianity can be divided into three parts. One split happened because the Church in the Roman Empire began to receive support from the emperors who had previously persecuted them. However, the Christians in the eastern part of the empire did not get the same support. Within the Church that was part of the empire, there were more divisions between those who used Greek and those who used Latin. This division became official after the Council of Chalcedon in 451, and the three different stories of Christianity didn't really overlap much until around 1700. The first story is about the Christianity that started in the Middle East where Jesus was from. The Christians there spoke a language similar to Aramaic, which eventually turned into Syriac. They began to form a different identity from the Greek-speaking Christians in the western part of the Roman Empire. Many of these Syriac Christians lived on the edges of the empire. When the Roman emperor tried to settle a complicated question about Jesus' nature at Chalcedon, many Syrians rejected his answer, even though they disagreed on why. They had different views called Miaphysite and Diophysite. Despite their disagreements, Miaphysite and Diophysite Syriac Christians did amazing missionary work in places like Northeast Africa, India, and East Asia. However, their story changed a lot with the rise of Islam, which also came from the same area as Jesus. By the 8th century, the new city of Baghdad was a more likely center for worldwide Christianity than Rome. The rise of Islam is the main reason why the history of Christianity took a different path. The second story is about the Western Church that spoke Latin, which started looking to the Bishop of Rome as its main leader. During the 4th century, as the emperors left Rome, the bishop, often called the Pope, became more important. The power of church leaders grew, especially in the Latin West. By the 14th century, when the Pope faced challenges, we can look to the third story, which is about orthodoxy. The Orthodox Church is also connected to the Roman Empire, but it developed under the rule of the Eastern Emperor. Just when it seemed like the Orthodox Church might weaken after Byzantium fell to the Ottomans, a new form of orthodoxy in Russia began to grow stronger. The story of the Western Latin Church continues with the Reformation and Counter-Reformation, which broke the Church into many pieces and helped Christianity become a worldwide faith. After 1700, the three stories started to come together again as Western Christian empires expanded. Today, even though there are many different types of Christianity, they are more connected than they have been since the early Christians in the Middle East. I also want to talk about the complicated and often sad history between Christianity and its parent religion, Judaism, as well as Islam, which came later. For most of its history, Christianity has been quite intolerant, often trying to eliminate other religions except for Judaism, which it sometimes used to support its own beliefs. Even now, not all Christians are open to accepting other beliefs. I focus on what happened when the kings of Spain and Portugal turned their multi-religious societies into strictly Christian ones and spread that idea to other parts of the world. In my previous book about the Reformation, I found that the destruction of Spanish Judaism and Islam after 1492 helped create new forms of Christianity that challenged early church ideas. This also led to new ways of thinking during the Enlightenment in Western culture. I look at how European Christian empires in the 19th and 20th centuries caused reactions of strong intolerance in other religions, especially Islam, Judaism, and Hinduism. In Christian tradition, there are important words like repentance and conversion, both of which mean turning around. This book talks about how people have changed because of Christianity and how they have changed what Christianity means. We will learn about Paul of Tarsus, who had a big change in his life after hearing a message that he believed was for everyone. He argued a lot with other followers of Jesus who thought Jesus was only meant for the Jews. Then there's Augustine of Hippo, a wise teacher who changed his life after reading Paul's writings. He later influenced Martin Luther, another smart man who lived over 1,000 years later. We will also meet Constantine, a soldier who fought his way to control the Roman Empire. He believed that the Christian God wanted him to do this. As part of his deal, he changed Christianity from a small, troubled group into a powerful and favored religion in Rome. In Jerusalem, there is an old church built on the site where Emperor Constantine and his mother believed Jesus died, was buried, and rose again. This church is known as the Church of the Holy Sepulchre by Western Christians, but Orthodox Christians call it the Anastasis, meaning resurrection. Inside this church, you can see how different groups of Christians worship together, often in noisy ways. One morning I saw 2 different church services happening at the same time near Jesus' tomb. It was interesting to watch the calm Latin Mass with its organ music and the lively singing of the Miaphysite Copts. I enjoyed seeing a Coptic priest swinging his incense around, sending it toward the other group. The many differences in Christianity come from its deep feelings and passions. Its story is not just about ideas or history, it's about real human experiences. The main book of Christianity is the Bible, which is a complex collection of writings, much like the mysterious library mentioned in the book, The Name of the Rose. The Bible has 2 main parts: the Old Testament, which includes the Hebrew Scriptures, called the Tanakh, and the New Testament, which focuses on the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. The Bible talks about people's experiences with God, which can be confusing. While God knows who He is, as shown when He spoke to Moses through a burning bush, both Jewish and Christian beliefs say that God has a personal relationship with people and is also beyond description. This creates a challenge to explain God, and that's what the Bible tries to do. It doesn't have all the answers, and it only claims to do so once in a letter from Paul to Timothy. The Bible uses many different voices, even expressing anger toward God. It tells stories that might not be true but aim to share important lessons, like in the books of Jonah and Job. It also criticizes church traditions, especially in the prophetic writings that challenge the teachings of their time. This serves as a warning for anyone who wants to tell others what to do based on the Bible. Different themes from the Bible come up again in various ways. For example, in Ethiopia, Miaphysite Christians went back to some Jewish practices, like circumcision and not eating pork, which surprised Jesuits from Europe in the 16th century. A popular modern Christian movement called Pentecostalism focuses on speaking in tongues, which was something Paul of Tarsus didn't trust, and that didn't happen much until the 19th century. Another recurring theme is the idea of the last days, which is especially common in Western Christianity. In medieval times, this idea was popular among the powerless, but during the Reformation in the 16th century, it became more mainstream, leading to wars and revolutions. In the 19th century, new ideas like premillennialism and the rapture became popular in American evangelical Christianity and spread to places like Asia, South America, and Africa, along with Pentecostalism. Many people are interested in the last days because history can feel chaotic and confusing, and people often long for a better past. This desire can lead to stories like King Arthur's knights waiting to save the world, or the mystery of the Knights Templar, which made the Da Vinci Code a bestseller. The Bible has often been very important for different groups of people, helping to save not just their souls, but also their languages and identities. For example, in 1588, a Protestant bishop named William Morgan published the Bible in Good Welsh. This helped keep Welsh culture alive, even when the English were more powerful. It also made most Welsh people Protestants during the Reformation. Similarly, for Koreans in the late 1800s, translating the Bible into Korean helped revive their alphabet and became a source of national pride. This gave them strength during tough times under Japanese rule and helped Christianity grow in Korea over the past 50 years. The Russian Orthodox Church also translated the Bible into many languages in Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union, which helped keep Orthodox Christianity alive and growing. The Bible represents many traditions, not just one. Some people who call themselves traditionalists forget that tradition is more like a living plant that changes over time while still keeping its identity. Christians have a special relationship with the Bible, like the bond between a parent and child. This relationship is different from those with other books, and it can be complicated, but it is important and can't be changed. Understanding this helps take away some worries people have about the Bible's authority. Maybe we can look at the Bible seriously without taking everything literally. Books hold human ideas, and three major religions from the Middle East, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, focus on sacred books. This book about the people of the book discusses important ideas. Some readers might see it as a story, while students and scholars may want to explore how social and political history affects religious beliefs. In the first 5 centuries of Christianity, it was shaped by discussions with Judaism and Greco-Roman philosophy. People tried to understand big questions like how Jesus could be both human and God, and how to explain the Trinity, which describes one God in 3 forms. After many debates, the Council of Chalcedon in 451 made decisions based on political situations, but not everyone agreed with them. The divisions that followed were made worse by political conflicts, especially during the Crusades, when Western Christians attacked Eastern Christians. This led to many problems and misunderstandings, all stemming from ideas created by a group of bishops. The Bible was a topic of debate among Christians until at least the late 2nd century. Even after they decided which books would be included in the Bible, they faced a common problem that all religions share. The text alone doesn't answer every question. This led to many interpretations and traditions in different parts of Christianity. As early as the 4th century, a Christian leader named Basil of Caesarea said that some traditions were just as important as the Bible itself. During the European Reformation, people argued about whether these traditions should be considered essential for being a Christian. Roman Catholics believed that the Church was in charge of these traditions, and that they should be followed. Protestants disagreed, thinking that many traditions distracted people from the simple message of the Bible. However, Protestants were not always consistent because some of their beliefs, like baptizing infants, are not found in the Bible. Those who believed in following only the Bible criticized them for this. All successful world religions, including Christianity, have shown an ability to change and adapt, which is why Christianity is so diverse. Some Christians, especially those in charge of churches, may not like to be reminded of this changeability, but it has always been part of Christianity. Christianity started as a small branch of Judaism, and its founder, Jesus, did not leave any written works. He believed the end of the world would come soon and told his followers to focus on what mattered, even telling them to let the dead bury their own dead. Maybe he didn't write anything because he thought there wasn't enough time left for humanity. However, his followers began to doubt that the end was near and started to collect stories about him in a new form called a codex, which is like a modern book. When the end didn't come as expected at the end of the 1st century, it was a major turning point for Christianity, even though we don't know much about it. After this, Christianity became a very different religion from what Jesus started, or even what Paul, one of its early leaders, had in mind. From the very beginning, Christianity has changed a lot over time, and there are many examples of this. After 300 years of struggle with the Roman Empire, Christianity transformed from a small, different group into a big part of the government that helped keep Western culture alive when the Roman government fell apart. In the 1800s in America, a new group of Christians created a religion with its own sacred book, known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Mormons. The growth of the Mormons is just as important to modern Christianity as other groups like Orthodox, Roman Catholic, or Protestant Christians, even if some Christians don't consider them Christian. There have also been other new groups that have grown from the core of Christianity, like the Kimbanguists in Central Africa and the Unification Church started by Reverend Sun Myung Moon in Korea. These changes are often surprising. For example, in Korea, a very successful Presbyterian church teaches people in Europe how to follow the teachings of a famous Christian reformer named John Calvin, but they also sing hymns from a different group called Methodism, which has different beliefs. Many Korean Christians are very patriotic and worship in churches that look like Protestant churches from the Midwest United States. The strong feelings that people have put into building a world faith have inspired amazing creativity in things like literature, music, art, and architecture. To understand Christianity, you can see Jesus in beautiful artworks like mosaics and paintings. For example, in the church Santa Maria Maggiore in Rome, the golden ceiling is made from gold sent by the King of Spain, taken from temples across the ocean as a tribute to God and the Catholic Church. The powerful feelings of Christianity can be heard in the hymns written by John and Charles Wesley, which gave hope and purpose to poor people during tough times in Britain. They also influenced the beautiful organ music of Johann Sebastian Bach. Even during hard times in East Germany, a Bach organ concert could fill a church with people looking for something meaningful. All parts of Christian belief, from wanting to understand God's purpose to simply enjoying time with friends, are important and should be taken seriously. This is my personal view of Christian history, and I think it's important for you to know where I'm coming from. My family has been involved in the church for 3 generations, and I grew up in a rectory in a small Anglican church, which reminds me of the happy life of Reverend Samuel Crossman. I have fond memories of being around the Bible and feeling strongly about Christian beliefs. Now, I see myself as a friend of Christianity. I still value the seriousness that religion brings to understanding life's mysteries and struggles, and I appreciate the solemn rituals that help us face these challenges. I often wonder how something that seems so strange can be so interesting to millions of people. To answer that question for myself, I explore the history of Christianity and other religions. Some people might call my approach a way of understanding Christianity, without making strong statements about it. I don't claim to know if Christianity or any religion is true. For example, Shakespeare's play Hamlet isn't true because it never happened, but it has a lot of meaning for people. In that sense, it feels more true than my breakfast from this morning, which was simply real but not very interesting. The idea of truth is very important to Christianity, and much of its history shows how different people have understood this idea. However, historians don't have the right to say whether God exists, just like biologists can't make that claim. What historians can do is share the story of Christianity, which is definitely part of human history. Historical truth can be just as exciting and meaningful as stories we make up. It represents the many individual stories of people like us. Most of these stories are hard to remember or only come to light with the methods historians have developed over the last 300 years. In one English village churchyard called Widford, there are over 5,000 graves, some dating back 900 years. We can only know the names of a few hundred of the people buried there, but finding out about their lives is exciting. I hope this book helps readers look at Christianity from different angles, whether they love it, hate it, or are just curious. This book isn't based solely on original research. Instead, it gathers information from many historians around the world. It tries to explain how Christianity has changed over time and to help people understand what is happening with it today. The ideas in the book are not random. They aim to shape our understanding of the past. Some parts of this book build on my earlier work, Reformation, which told part of this bigger story. My goal is to tell a complex and varied story in a way that people will enjoy and find believable. While modern historians can't decide what is true or not about religion, I believe they have a responsibility to promote understanding and reduce extreme ideas. Bad history or oversimplified history can lead to fanaticism. I have been lucky in my career to study and teach at great universities like Cambridge and Oxford. Some people see these universities as disconnected from real life, and they are right if the discussions stay within the walls. I want to take those conversations outside. I feel very fortunate to be trained as a professional historian. This training helps me manage my strong feelings about my own background. It allows me to tell the story in a way that is fair and understanding, even if readers have different views on Christianity. I want to highlight the good things about different Christian beliefs, while also pointing out what can be foolish or dangerous. Religious beliefs can sometimes seem crazy. They have led people to do bad things, but they have also inspired great acts of kindness and creativity. I want to share stories from both sides. If this project can help clear up misunderstandings and myths that lead to foolishness, then I will feel that my work has been worthwhile.